And I just want to check before we start, there are a few folks in the waiting room. Are you guys okay with me letting them all in?
Thanks. Dylan, just let me know when you're ready and I'll start.
You're good.
That's a thumbs up. Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Sullivan. I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. I'll call the meeting of August 12th to order. This meeting is being conducted remotely and all votes will be taken by roll call. Just to confirm, members can hear me and communicate. I'll check microphones. Brooke Moore.
Yes.
Mary Mack.
Yes.
Penny Dye.
I'm here.
Chantal Murphy.
Here.
Okay, great. With that, I will jump to the first item on the agenda. Forgive me, let me trade screens here. Are there any changes from staff to the agenda as I'm looking at it? No, head shake no. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as we have it?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Penny. Is our second? Second, Brooke, by roll call,
Brian.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
I'm okay. How are you?
There we go. Mary Mack,
Hi.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Chantal Murphy,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's aye. Item 3, we have public comments. I see members, I think, of the public. I would love anybody to open the floor if anybody has any comments or questions, or any members of the board as a member of public. Seeing no movement, I'll close public comment. I will look to the approval of the minutes of July 15th, review and action. I believe that these have been sent around in a final version. Are there any changes at this time? Seeing none, does anybody want to approve the minutes for July 15th?
Move approval, Mrs. Brooke.
Thank you, Brooke. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Penny. By roll call, Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Mary Mack,
Hi.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Chantal Murphy.
I'm going to recuse because I haven't had a chance to read it.
Great, thank you. And Brian Sullivan's and I. Moving to announcements. I don't know who wants to take announcements, but I will announce that I went to a really great movie last night called Room for Us, a documentary about the housing crisis on Nantucket, and the students, Patrick Kennedy and Jasper Craven, who led a student group, knocked it out of the park. It was a really emotional viewing for me, and I think others in the audience, of the depth of our housing crisis here on Nantucket. And it feels like it's a piece of work that could move the needle. So however we can share this film and the experience, I would encourage us and everyone to. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I'm sure Dylan and Christy can get the link circulated to any of the board members who haven't had a chance to watch the final cut, because there are some differences to previous versions.
I would love that. I wasn't able to go last night. I had tickets, but I had to leave. So, yeah.
That was great. And it was nice. I will also note that it was nice that Rachel Freeman from the Land Bank came and participated and continued the collaboration from, kind of the collaboration working effort that is building now with the Land Bank from when we all testified for the transfer fee as well. So it was nice to see that supported a number of their board members there. Okay, Christy, I'll come to you and or Dylan for any other announcements that we have.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sullivan. I just had one other announcement that Nantucket has been named one of the 43 municipalities that earned the 2025 Housing Choice Community designation. And that just brings a host of benefits to the town, and it's something that we apply for every 5 years. So it's a really great accomplishment, showing that we're progressing in the goals outlined in our housing production plan, and continuing to add units to our subsidized housing inventory list. So I just wanted to let the community know that, that it's a big achievement to be one of the 43 municipalities. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks for the hard work. I know those applications aren't easy or uncomplicated, so I appreciate staff getting us through that process. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none, I'll close announcements and we will move to discussion and action on the RFP proposal for Orange Street, Vesper Lane, and Bartlett Road. Dylan and or Christy, I'm not sure how you want to lead this. I will note for the record that Forrest is now here as well as a member of the board.
Thank you, Chair Sullivan. So Brian Turbett will be joining us as the Chief Procurement Officer. But we first wanted to open it up. We have the team from Affirmative Investments who submitted two proposals for our bundled RFP, our request for proposals, develop the 3 vacant lots over at Bartlett Road, Vesper Lane, and Orange Street. So we're going to have the team go through kind of a comparison of their 2 proposals, and then Brian Turbett should be online to give the recommendation from the RFP committee that has met a couple of times to review. And then the intention would be for the trust to vote to award the RFP based on the recommendation. So I'll first hand it over through you to Tara and her team, but I do see Penny has her hand up.
Great. Thank you, Christy. Penny?
Yeah, just quickly, Christy, it would be helpful, I think, if you gave us all a quick overview of who was on this committee, also the evaluating committee at some point, whether it's before or after the presentation. Thank you.
Through you, Chair Sullivan, I'm happy to do that before. So we had 2 members of the Affordable Housing Trust, Shanta and Abby. The select board representative was Don Hill Holgate. We had Brian Turbett, myself, and then Tracy as our real estate, and there's Leslie Snell as our planning director. And then we had Bernie Husser, who is a financial consultant and very knowledgeable in LIHTC deals as part of our review committee.
Go ahead, Penny.
It's a very quick follow-up, and you've heard me ask this or say this before. Was there anybody with local construction expertise on the committee or consulted?
So Bernie really lends as a consultant to the town on these projects, and he's worked on other projects such as Tacoma Green. And then we also had Don Hill on there as well that has a wealth of knowledge around real estate and development on the island.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. With that, any other questions before we have Tara jump in? Tara, the floor is yours, and please feel free to jump around to your associates and not through me on everyone if it keeps us moving smoothly.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for having us all. We're really excited to be here. I'm just going to introduce, there's 4 of us on the call real quick, and you'll hear from 3 of us in the presentation, but then we're all available to answer questions. So I'm Tara Mizrahi. I'm the Executive VP at Affirmative Investments. We have David Ennis, who is the president, and we'll start off our presentation. Virginia Coffey is a development associate, and we have Craig Nicholson, who's our director of real estate. So we're going to just do a short presentation that brings you through our proposals, and then happy to answer anything. So I'm going to have David start.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks. I'm very glad to be here. We're very excited about working with you all on these 3 projects on the island. I'm going to do a very brief overview of Affirmative Investments. So we were created in 1983 as a social investment banking firm. And during the 80s, we did fairly small tax advantage deals. And then at the end of the 80s, the low-income housing tax credit was created. And we became a player in that marketplace, providing capital to projects. And then in the early 90s, we sort of switched sides and started working on the project side and working with nonprofits. I mean, we are a mission-driven firm. We were created by people who are interested in social investment. And so our goal was to raise capital for the nonprofits, but then we became partners with nonprofits. And during the 90s and beyond, we moved from being providers of equity to providers of equity and debt, to development consultants to co-developers. And in the last 25 years, we've helped create over 6,500 units of affordable housing, totaling about $1.2 billion in total development costs. And we work in communities as partners. We work with community-based partners, nonprofits. We're working in Falmouth on our 8th deal right now with the Falmouth Housing Corporation. We're working with the Island Housing Trust on Martha's Vineyard. We just did the groundbreaking 2 weeks ago for a 60-unit project in Oak Bluffs. And so that our MO is basically to work with mission-driven people and to work with communities that really want to understand the need for affordable housing. And we think we can bring our expertise and help you and work with you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tara to explain our proposal.
Actually, we're going to, first, we're going to show you design
all right.
concepts, no problem. And Virginia's going to go through those and then I'll talk about the finances.
Hi, everyone. So as Christy mentioned earlier, we did submit 2 proposals that Tara will go through, but the design concepts remain the same for both proposals. So anything that I say goes for both. Starting off just briefly, I'll touch on all 3 of the sites. On Orange Street, this is the site plan. The site plan is really centered around preserving this tulip poplar tree right in the middle. So we have 4 buildings to split up the scale, and we have 28 units in those buildings, including 12 1-beds, 12 2-beds, and 4 3-bedroom units, as well as 28 parking spaces for the site. A couple other things to note is that we've created a bus turnoff here for the bus route that goes down Orange Street and stops here, as well as a bus shelter. Popping in to see a rendering of it. This is if you're standing on the corner of 141, which I'll pop back here. If you're standing over here, if you can see my mouse and looking back at the site, you can see that we've really tried to keep with the materiality and character of Nantucket, with the wood shingle siding, white trim, and other elements like that. And I'll also call out that we've really taken care to position the smallest buildings toward the front of the street to kind of mask the scale while still fitting density on this parcel. For Bartlett Road, we've taken a similar approach with smaller buildings on the front on the street side, and then a larger building in the back. Here we have 12 units, including 8 1-bedrooms and 4 2-bedrooms. And we've concealed the parking in between the 2 buildings so you can't see it from the street as well. And so that the neighbors, it's shielded from there. And you can see that by placing the buildings and the parking in the way that we have, we've really opened up this nice south-facing lawn down here, which you can see in this rendering. So it creates a lot of nice open space for the residents and also provides a really nice buffer between these buildings and the neighboring buildings. Again, you can see the smaller buildings in the front. This Bartlett Road would be right behind those buildings, and then this larger building in the back, which would have storage and mailroom that would serve this whole parcel. And finally, I'll jump into Vesper Lane. Vesper Lane is the senior community. So this has 17 units of housing, 15 1-bedrooms and 2 2-bedrooms that would all be for older adults. And we've really tried to be intentional in our site design here and our floor plan design to create a community. So one thing I'll highlight here, you can see my mouse, hopefully. We've created this circular walking path all around the site to kind of encourage the residents to move around the site, get outside, and also interact with each other, as well as another really nice open space and lawn here. There's also a really thick, dense landscape buffer to keep this parcel kind of separate from these buildings down here. All the units on this site are designed with accessible design and are accessible from the first floor. Buildings 2 and 3 on the edges are single story, and then building 1 has an elevator in it. And here's a view looking back into the site kind of from those neighboring buildings on the plan south. And you can also see we have solar panels on the roof. All sites we have solar panels on now. These are really sustainably designed buildings. And you can also see this circular walking path around the site and the lawn space. So that was a lot very quickly, and we're happy to come back to any of these, but I'll turn it over to Tara to talk about budgets.
Great, thanks, Virginia. So as you saw, we submitted 2 proposals, which is not what we normally do. It might have seemed odd to people. Our main proposal was for workforce housing units. The majority was workforce housing units, but as we responded to the proposal and we really looked at, the cost that was going to be involved, from the town on building the workforce units, we figured it might be helpful for you to see an alternative and what that meant if you were going to finance it with more traditional affordable housing resources like the low-income housing tax credit. So the low-income housing tax credit proposal was kind of an add-on, really, to kind of just set expectations for if you went a different route, what that might look like. So this is just an overall about the difference between the two proposals. As you can see, the workforce is much more focused on the 80 to 120% AMIs than the LIHTC. I'll go through that quickly in a second. The nice thing about the workforce proposal as opposed to the LIHTC proposal is we would be able to get started sooner. As you guys know, because you're the affordable housing group, the process to get state resources can take quite a long time. There's also quite a backlog and many projects that are ahead of us in line to access those resources. So the workforce project, we would be able to start sooner and roll out those units ongoing. In general, the contribution is about 7 million more to build the workforce units. The total development cost is pretty much the same. The workforce project is a little bit more expensive, mostly because there are two separate mobilizations. We would start with Bartlett, Orange and Bartlett, and then we would apply for Vesper as a low-income housing tax credit project, the senior project, because there'd be focused on more low-income tenants there. And so there'd be two mobilizations there. And as I mentioned, the sources, using more of the town money would be a little bit more flexible than the overlaying of all of the resources that you would have with really a 3-building LIHTC project. So if you're going to go to the next slide, thanks. So the darker columns here, this is just to show visually where the units fit on each of the projects with the AMI levels. So you can just obviously see the LIHTC project is weighted more towards the lower end of the AMIs than the workforce. The next slide is really just shows you that in numbers. We'll come back to this. This came up on the oversight, the last committee, so we can come back to this slide if people had specifics and wanted to know the units. So if you can go to the next, actually, if you stay on there, so just in general, I think that the last committee, we did talk about kind of what these AMIs mean for residents in Nantucket, but your committee probably, it definitely knows better than us kind of the typical incomes and who you're trying to serve there. When we looked, we really found that the teachers, police officers are really making more than that 60% AMI level. There certainly is a need below the 60%, but we can understand why you guys were focused on the workforce units there. So in general, you can see the two different resources. Obviously, on the workforce, we can support a higher mortgage. We have higher rents. As you can see on the LIHTC side, we are looking for much more on the tax credits, both the federal and the state, which are hard to get. The recent bill down in DC has made, we did get a little boost on our 9% tax credits, so that will be helpful, but there still is a backlog for many projects that have been waiting in line for those projects. You'll see we're asking for mass housing workforce money on both, because we do have workforce housing units in both proposals. We talked about the Town of Nantucket's contribution, and then the grants and developer equity is higher on the workforce side because there is a larger fee that can be contributed back into the project. If you want to go to the next one. And the uses are, again, pretty similar here. The hard costs, again, are a little bit higher because of the mobilization. And then just to address Penny's question, maybe. So Delbrook Construction helped us put together construction estimates for this. They are doing a significant amount of work on the islands. They are the contractor on Tacoma Green, but they also are our contractors right now on both of our vineyard projects. So they have very current numbers, which is very helpful. Soft costs are roughly the same. The more federal money, the more monies you have, the more costs go up, that you're dealing with different lawyers and reserves and things like that. And then, as I mentioned, the developer fee is a little higher on the workforce side, so we can use that as a bit of a contribution back towards the project. And the timeframe is, again, we can start a little quicker on the workforce. So you can see that we would look to start in the spring of 2028 on the workforce side. And then the LIHTC, it would be a little bit more than a year after, because the first time we would really be able to submit to the state for their credits would be February of 2027. And so this is when we would first occupy these buildings. On the workforce side, as I mentioned, we would start Orange and Bartlett at similar times, and then we would wait until we got the award on Vesper. On the LIHTC side, it would be one project mobilization where we would just roll over. We would start on one project, and 2 months later, we would start on the next building. 2 months later, we would start on the next building. So I think that's it. We did speak very quickly because we're going to do a short presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Am I unmuted? Yes. Thank you very much, Tara and team. I'll come to Penny for a question.
Yes, thank you. Just quickly, how durable are these numbers? In other words, how long will they last before they start going up?
Sure. So we have built escalation in. Craig, do you know how much escalation Delbrook had put into our numbers? I think it matches our schedule, but I don't know if you have much more detail than that.
Yeah, let me just take a quick look.
Thanks.
Well, while he's doing that, I have another question, which is, I feel very strongly that we should be focusing on as high the percentages on the AMI as we can. I think that group has not been as well served. And so that's really more of an internal question than one for you, but also why starting in 2028? Is that the soonest you could do this?
So that would be the first occupancy. So we would start, yeah, that's when you would, the first tenants would move in. Yep.
Okay. And then lastly, I would say, as much as I'm a fan of LIHTC credits, it's clear that workforce housing is the, in my view, more responsible route to go here. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Craig, if you're ready, go ahead. If not, somebody else have a question?
No, Bob, I'm still looking for the place where they put that. So by all means, ask another question.
Okay, great. Members of the board? Go ahead, Brooke.
I think the designs are extremely thoughtful to, feedback we get from the community. I think the idea of citing the smaller buildings on the street side is really smart. And I agree with Penny that our experience with LIHTC has been challenging on Tacoma Green. I mean, not all the issues around that project are related to LIHTC, but it has added a level of complexity that I know we're going to be seeking some of it, but the less LIHTC dependent we are. I also agree with Penny that the need in that middle income area is so great here that I prefer that proposal.
Thank you, Brooke. Chrissy, I see that Brian has joined us. Brian, we're waiting on a number from Craig. He's looking up on an escalation in time on costs if they don't meet the existing timeline. But while he's working on that, can you step in for where your thoughts were or the recommendation of the RFP committee or procurement?
Sure. So I'll just kind of go through it a little bit. As the committee, the trust knows, we put the procurement out. There was one respondent, which was Affirmative Investments. They put forth two proposals, one with less LIHTC money in the deal and potentially a greater contribution from the trust, and then one with far more LIHTC, focused proposal called Proposal 2, which potentially had a reduced funding from the trust. Originally, when we went through it and reviewed the first proposal, people kind of thought that the second proposal might be a little bit better, partially because of the reduced ask for financing from the trust. So we had a subsequent meeting to review proposal 2 and a presentation by Affirmative Investments, Craig and Tara and their staff. And as we walked through it, we realized that the timeline was, I think one of the key focuses was really that the timeline was was extended substantially in a lot of ways, just because of the uncertainty with LIHTC funding and timelines to be able to get it. So the committee, excuse me, in that discussion kind of, I think, retacked back to potentially proposal 1. We had a subsequent follow-up meeting to kind of discuss the 2 proposals. And I will say, Mr. Chair, in both proposals, I think the entire review committee thought they were very well done. They liked the design. They liked how thoughtful Affirmative had been in addressing most, if not all, of the requirements in the request for proposals, including, the bus pull off on in the Orange Street development and so on and so forth. So I think the committee as a whole was very impressed. Ultimately, there was a lot of discussion around workforce versus LIHTC, and how do we kind of serve that, that there was a lot of proposals, current development, serving the lower income bracket, and workforce housing was something that was really a big necessity. And that timeline, I think, was, and potential to get that started earlier, get it developed and completed, the majority of it earlier, with a smaller portion being subject to LIHTC financing, I think ended up being more attractive to the review committee as a whole. Although they, to be candid, scored both proposals very, very similar in almost all of the evaluative criteria, with the exception of the potential financing request. And I think the evaluation committee overwhelmingly thought, with the timeline and the urgency, that proposal 1 was that one that they were going to send to recommend to the committee. Obviously, there's a long way to go still. Would be really, then after this, Hilltop is still kind of working through the financing metrics and everything. So there's a lot of work on our side now. But I think the committee was very appreciative of both proposals, but felt overwhelmingly at the end that the timeline on proposal 1 was what stood out, given the need for development of housing on the island, and the speed that which could be accommodated for 2 out of the 3 parcels. And Christy, if I've missed anything, please jump in, but I think I got a pretty good summarization of it.
And I think it's probably too early for my question. As you mentioned, Hilltop's still working on some things, but as far as future funding and bonding authorization and using any potential CPC money on the sub 100% AMI units, there's potential future allocations as far as where we sit today for this kind of funding.
There is, we have I don't want to go into every bucket we have, but you have the $45 million authorization, and certainly there's plans for future development, and we have to weigh that. And there is the 3rd tranche of $5 million CPC funding that could help in some of the lower brackets. But I think these are all discussions ultimately we would probably work through.
Okay.
And kind of, we're still working with Josh from Hilltop to kind of go through. I mean, Craig and Tara and David and their staff have been incredibly responsive to the questions that Hilltop has had, and produced information, and we're trying to parse through it. But I think that the committee could potentially, I don't want to tell the committee what to do by any stretch, Mr. Chair, but I think potentially could accept the recommendation from the committee, pending a term sheet presentation to you at some point for discussion, and then presentment to them. But I think that's probably where we're at as we work through the Hilltop stuff.
Thank you, Brian.
So,
Craig?
Brian, yeah, I do have the answer. Delbrook includes about a 3% contingency for both escalation and design, since we're really just at, pictures at this point. And And then we also include a 5% construction contingency on top of that in our numbers.
Thank you.
The only question that I had, because I think as we started down this road, they hadn't been in there, but there's likely going to be potentially some modifications to the construction cost for tariff impact, right? Or would you think you'll be able to absorb them in the contingencies that you have, Craig?
Yeah, tariffs are kind of a hard one to pin down. They're applied one day, they're not applied the next.
Yeah.
So, you know, when it comes down to it, we'll figure that out. You know, we're so early on that we still haven't, you know, done any sort of value engineering. We haven't done any look at whether this could be built modularly, versus panelized versus stick built in the field. So there's still a lot of design and engineering and kind of cost evaluation that we need to do.
Okay.
On that note, have you worked through sort of the Nantucket building in mind, HDC process and material options that you'll need to be using on Nantucket versus somewhere else?
Yeah, we did use the building on Nantucket guideline. Our architects, LDA, are the architects at Tacoma Green, so they're familiar with the process and have gone through that and understand the materials and kind of what HDC is going to be looking for.
Penny, come to you.
Yeah, just a quick question. With your experience, it sounds like you have considerable experience with Delbrook on the vineyard, or are now. My question has to do with finishing on time.
Yeah.
In a kind of macro way.
Yeah. So I'm leading the two vineyard projects for Affirmative. One is under construction, as David said. The other one just had its groundbreaking a few weeks ago. For the one that is under construction, we are approximately 30 days behind schedule, but that is entirely due to Eversource and their final electrical design process that took longer than Delbrook had anticipated, and that we had anticipated, since we're part of that process as well. It is not their actual construction schedule and what their boots on the ground people are doing.
Okay, thank you.
Are there additional questions at this time? So this is an action meeting. I think we're looking for a motion on the committee's recommendation for approval. Chrissy, correct me if I'm going sideways here, but on the recommendation, as I heard it from Brian, on option number 1, leaning towards the workforce side. Is anyone prepared to make a recommendation? Penny?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. I'd like to make a motion that we approve proceeding with option 1 under the proposal.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shanta. Questions, comments, discussion?
Mr. Chair, can I just
Yes, please, Brian.
Vicky, would this be subject to successful agreement on financing on the town's participation? This recommendation, or no? I just want to make sure, because as you saw, that had a recommendation or a request for 18 million, and I just want to make sure that if it needs to be contingent on successful finance negotiations, it's included. That's all. I don't mean to interrupt, and I apologize.
I'll just amend my motion to include that. How about that?
Okay.
Great. Thank you for the friendly amendment, Brian. Accepted by Penny. Mary?
I just have one quick question. Is there any way that the workforce and the LIHTC, this may show how much I don't know about all this, but is there any way that there can be a collaboration where the workforce housing it's mostly the workforce housing, but we can also serve that lower income at the same time?
So I think based on the appraisal, we're achieving lower income options, just not as many.
Right.
Because the LIHTC could delay the project outwards of a couple of years.
But To
Go
answer your
ahead,
question,
Sarah.
we could bring back up that slide, because it'll show you, hold on, I closed my presentation, but let me grab this and see if
I
I
have it
can.
up. I can share.
Okay, you want to just go back to, yeah. So if you look here, you can see in the different proposals, what we have in each of the AMI brackets. So most of our lower income units right now on the workforce VESPER are on the senior units. We start at the 80% AMI and above. I do believe, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, that someone on the evaluation team asked a similar question, or maybe it was you. And I think that we are open to bringing some units that have lower affordability on the workforce. Obviously, it's just, it depends on funds. And I think we wouldn't want to bring a LIHTC project overlaid with the Orange and Bartlett sites, because that would delay it. And I think that's not what we're hearing from the town. But certainly if it's a few units to add in there at lower incomes, we certainly can be talking with the town and looking at the trade-offs there and how much that would cost. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Mary, or not, but we're very open to trying to figure out how to provide for you guys what you want.
Okay, yeah, that's great. That answers it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Excellent. So any more questions on the motion as made by Penny? And forgive me, I didn't catch who seconded it. I think it was Brooke.
No, it was Chantal.
It was me.
Chantal.
And I'll second
Then thank you.
the amendment to the motion as well.
Great. Thank you, Chantal. Any more discussion? Vote by roll call. Penny Dye.
Aye.
Sing top row, second row. Forrest Bell.
Aye.
Sally, did you freeze? Yeah, Brooke?
I'm an aye.
Yeah, we're getting,
Am I back? Sorry for the suspense. I froze out. I think I went to Forrest Bell.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, Forrest. Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Chantal Murphy.
Aye.
Mary Mack.
Aye.
Brian Sullivan's an aye. Did I get all members? We have a nice full screen. Go ahead.
hey, I just want to ask one more thing, if I might, through you. Could Affirmative share the presentation they just made with us digitally, please?
It's in your packet.
Oh, I didn't even
Yeah.
see the packet. I said, apologies. Okay, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you guys. We're excited to keep moving this along. We're excited to be at this step of this phase and project and the allocation of these land and the visions in sight. So
We are too. So thank you. And actually, if you guys wouldn't mind sending us, if there's a link to the room for us, we would love to watch that as well, or if there's a way to watch that. So that would be great. And yeah, we're looking forward
to Room for Us, the movie?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We'll make sure we get that to you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Anyway, back to the agenda. Board comments. Penny.
Yes, I just had a question about the deed restriction program. And at what point will people be able to apply for that?
Christy.
So staff is still working through launching the program. We're working with Judy Barrett of Barrett Planning and Housing Nantucket as the monitoring agency. So we're just working through a few final things.
So weeks, months?
Weeks.
Yeah, I think it's going to be weeks. I don't want to speak for Christy, but I'm working through cutting up some of the RFP to get it to comply with the disposition under real estate. And Christy, I think we have an expectation that it'll be released very early in September. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's still the goal, Penny.
Thank you very much.
Do that.
Any other board comments? Seeing none, I'll close board comments. Other business. Looks like we have a meeting next week and the week after, Christy. Scowl face.
No, just next week.
Oh, forgive me. Okay, I'll take the scowl face back. Sorry. The 19th and then September 9th. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn regular session, not to return for the purpose of executive session. To consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property that could be a detriment in open session. Anyone like to make that motion?
I will. I make the motion.
Right. Thank you, Brooke. Is there a second?
Second.
Vote by roll call. Penny Dye,
Aye.
Boris Bell,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
John Tom Murphy,
Aye.
Mary Mack,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Okay. Thanks all. We'll see you there.